The following program is rated TV MALS. It contains sexual situations. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Hey guys, welcome to Last Movie Standing. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite genres in movies, and that's the raunchy comedy. And this video I've been planning for a very long time, and it's been really hard to put together. So the original idea for this video was going to be a beginner's guide to raunchy comedies, because I've been asked a few times in the comments by some of y'all, like, hey, what are some of your recommendations for raunchy comedies? Hey, if I'm just now getting into this, what are some really good movies? What are some suggestions that I should check out? And I got me thinking, like, that's a good question. If you're starting off in raunchy comedies, like, what would I recommend? And that was really hard. And I was trying to base it off, how do you judge that? Do you judge it off nudity? Do you judge it off situation? Do you judge it off, like, overall what the movie's about? It's kind of hard. Do you judge it off the number of sex scenes? Because some of these have zero nudity, but I would put them more the intermediate section, and some have more nudity, but I would kind of put them at the beginner section. So it's kind of weird. So instead, I just said, screw it. I'm just going to go down and just make one video this is my raunchy comedy collection. And I'm going to kind of talk through some of the movies with you and like let you know where I put them, and also how much nudity is in them for you to kind of judge for yourself. Like, oh, that's a lot, or ooh, that might be too much. Everybody's sensibility when it comes to sex comedies, raunchy comedies, I call them raunchy comedies, is different. We're all different. So I'm going to start off with probably the most famous franchise in raunchy comedy, and my favorite franchise, period. We're going to start with American Pie. I have a whole American Pie video, like separate video coming out like really soon. So I don't want to dig too deep into these, but I can't not make a raunchy comedy movie video and not talk about American Pies, especially the original theatrical run. So with these, I feel like at any level you could watch these movies. So as far as nudity goes, let's just get that out the way. American Pie 1, on probably the most influential sex comedy ever. And it's not the first one. This came out in 1999, but I would say it probably had the biggest impact in movies. Only one naked chick in the whole movie. So one pair. I'm gonna do the tit scale. One pair of tits, or one. Should I do one pair of tits or one naked woman? Nudity. I don't know. In this political climate, had 90% of this audience is like males, so. One pair of tits. American Pie 2, which is arguably, which is my, I was gonna say arguably the best one. Personally, my favorite one is American Pie 2. American Pie 2 is just a funner movie to me. I just like it a bit more. It does have two pairs of tits. It's one scene with these two lesbian chicks. Unrated, rated version, you're gonna see it either way. But very high recommend American Pie 2. American Wedding. American Wedding is, I really like this movie, but it's probably my least favorite of all these, just because it's just different. I don't know, like the cinematography is darker. It's just, I don't know, just something about this movie that isn't as fun, even though it's got one of the most iconic things in this movie with the Stifler dance off at the gay bar. So funny. And the music choices were so iconic. This also has on the tit scale, two pairs of tits again. It's only in one scene, the Bachelor Party scene with these two strippers. So that's really the only nudity you get in this movie. And then American Reunion, which is the fourth movie, This is one of my favorite ones too. Like if I had to rate these personally, I would go 2, 4, 1, 3. Just personally. This only has one pair of tits, one tit on the tit scale, one pair on the tit scale. I got to figure out how I'm gonna word that. But this one is a little bit situationally. So American Pie 1 takes place where they're in high school. So it's a high school movie with, nudity, sex, and, they make a pact to lose their virginity. That's what American Pie 1 is about. American Pie 2 is they want to throw the most epic beach party of the summer. American Wedding, Jim's getting married. And this one's their 10-year high school reunion. So they're all grown up. Some are parents. Some are, they're married. And then Jim's got this high school senior girl who's got a crush on him. So when I say situational, that's what I mean by that. Because you have Stifler goes to a high school party. It's fun, And the girl who gets naked is the high school senior. So I would put these in kind of the beginning, I would say beginner. Any level going into raunchy comedies, you can watch the first 4 American Pie, or the theatrical versions of the American Pies. There's so much more. On the lower end scale, I actually like this movie. I actually really do. But this is also the problem with modern raunchy comedies. So raunchy comedies, one of the reasons I love them so much is because they're also kind of taboo. Like, they're not making these movies anymore because people just get offended by them. I don't get it. Like, it's like somebody made a whole video about how problematic American Pie is. Like, how far is that stick up your ass, bro? Like, lighten up. Like, seriously. So with that being said, in his new generation, we have the last installment of American Pie, which is Girls Rule, which I think is a fun movie. I really like this movie. This is also the only American Pie movie with 0 nudity in this movie. And I know a lot of people have a problem with that, but here's, from the research I've done, there originally was nudity planned for this movie, but the director said he was told he couldn't. I think by Netflix. This is Universal, but I think it debuted on Netflix. It's not a Netflix original, but I'm not 100% sure. I think Netflix told him he couldn't have nudity in it. I don't even think it was girl nudity. I think it was a male nudity. Speaking of, I will say, so this American Reunion does have 1 pair of tits and 1 penis. I forgot to add that. You do see Jim's dick in like half a second in one scene for comedy value, which is fucking hilarious. But yeah, this is probably the most tamest. Like, I would watch this. Like, if you want to start like at the beginning, like you're really new to this and you don't take lightly to certain situations, this is the most PG American Pie you're gonna get. Sticking with American Pies, because like I said, this franchise is huge. There's 9 movies in this whole thing. Yeah. We're going to get to the straight to DVD ones. Now, these I would say are a little bit more intermediate to advanced when it comes to this, just because there's so much more nudity in these movies. Starting off, we have American Pie Band Camp, which I think is from 2005. Straight to DVD movie. This one has a lot more nudity than all the other ones. It has on the tit scale 5 pairs of tits, so 5 naked women. It is high school. It's still in high school. It's about Stifler's little brother. He's punished, so he goes to band camp, and he's kind of spying on girls. So it's really not like that bad. But I would put this kind of on the intermediate level. It's really not that bad. Next we have Naked Mile, which is a way better movie. Naked Mile is one of the best straight to DVD ones, in my opinions. We get introduced to all new characters. It follows another Stifler, like Stifler's cousin, and he's a senior in high school, but he gets a free pass from his girlfriend who's kind of prudish, and he goes to college to kind of tour the campus, and it's their famous Naked Mile run. And so when it comes to nudity in this movie, most of it is like you see they have this Naked Mile montage with just a bunch of people running naked down the campus. That's probably the most nudity you get, but there is when the after parties like the sex montage in here, it's pretty intermediate. I would probably put this more of up there as get a few more under your belt if you're gonna watch this one, just nudity wise, but it's still pretty tame. To me, these are all pretty tame, but that's why I'm doing the nude scale, just so you can see for yourself, judge for yourself, like, oh, that's a lot of nudity, oh, that's not that much nudity. Like I said, it's all preferencing. American Pie Beta House. This is my personal favorite of all the straight-to-DVD ones. This has the most nudity in it. I would say, I think it's 10 plus tits on the tit scale. And I say plus because there's a lot of other scenes in here that there's like, you know, more underwear scenes or just like sexual situation scenes that have no nudity in it. But this is basically following. This is the only out of the straight to DVD ones. It's basically part 1 and part 2. This is a sequel, direct sequel to Naked Mile. So this is Stifler's cousin again, going to college freshman year and pledging for a fraternity and all the stuff they have to do. It's very Revenge of the Nerds ish, but it's the opposite of Revenge of the Nerds. So in Revenge of the Nerds, which we'll get to on this list, Revenge of the Nerds is the nerds versus the jocks, and the jocks are the bad guys and the nerds are the good guys. This is flipped. So the nerds are the bad guys in this movie and the jocks are the good ones. Definitely the best one by far out of all of them. Highly recommend this one. But I would put that as a little bit more on the advanced side of raunchy comedies. Last American Pie one on this list is Book of Love. Book of Love came out in 2009. This was like the last of like the straight to DVD movies that came out for American Pie before, because they were the major jump. This came out in 2009, and then Girls Rule, I think it came out in 2019 or 2020. It was like one of those. I can't remember if it was right at COVID or pre-COVID. But this one is, they're back in high school. It's not really following any of the Stiflers. There is a Stifler, but it's not really following him. So if you've seen American Pie 1, the big thing with Kevin was he found this book, you know, that taught him how to please a woman. Well, this movie is about how the book was made, which is really interesting. This does have the second most amount of nudity in any American Pie movies. This has, I think, 8 plus on the tit scale, and the plus is just for extra stuff. So when I say 8 naked chicks, and then plus will be like, you know, girls just in their underwear are like implied, where you don't actually see anything. That's what I mean by plus. This does have James Gunn's wife in it, who you do see naked in one scene. Just throwing that out there. This movie's okay. I like it, but it's just okay compared to the rest. If this was its own non-American Pie movie, I feel like it would be a better thing, but it's called American Pie, so I gotta judge it with this pile. American Pie Book of Love. The most nudity, they go to a Canadian brothel, and that's probably the scenes with the most amount of nudity, but the nudity spread out throughout this one. To say American Pie was hugely influential is kind of an understatement with a lot of things. It inspired so many movies, especially this one, Good Kids. This is not an American Pie movie. It's just from the producer of American Pie. This has no nudity in it. It's basically, you know, follows 4 kids who it's it's summertime and they're each kind of experiencing their sexuality in different ways. You know, like you have the girl in the group who all of a sudden becomes hot, and so she's attracting guys that her friends don't really approve of. You have the main guy right here who's just really into hooking up with the older women, MILFs. Ashley Judd is in this movie and looks so sexy. Oh my god. But there's no nudity in it, no real crazy sexual situations. So why is it a raunchy comedy if there's not really that many sexual situations? Well, there is and there's not at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain. But if you're into high school, like, summer sex teen movies, I highly recommend this one, even though this is a little bit tamer. And I would put this in the beginner category, like, for sure. This one. Dirty Grandpa. Dirty Grandpa is definitely a raunchy comedy, even though it has zero nudity in this movie. Even for the unrated version, it has no nudity in it, which is crazy. I will say, though, this is the sexiest Aubrey Plaza has ever looked. You don't see Aubrey Plaza naked, but you see her in a thong, like, climb on from behind, climb on top of Robert De Niro. She looks good in this movie. And just her dirty talking banter in this, like...
Yeah, we are.
We're gonna thunder.
You're gonna tsunami on my face.
You're gonna flood like the Nile.
Yeah, I guess the drought in my is finally over.
The villagers will finally eat.
You're gonna die while you're eating me out. I want your last breath to be in my...
The first time you see Robert De Niro, he's jerking off in his chair. You know? Like, this is definitely a very tame, raunchy it's a Zac Efron movie. If you're into Zac Efron movies, you kind of already know what you're getting with this. But I'm gonna put this in the beginner category for sure. Next on this list, Cougar Club. I'm just grabbing them out the pile. I'll kind of figure out where I'm gonna put these later in editing. And I've talked about this movie before. Cougar Club, straight to DVD movie about two kids. I think they're college kids. They're interns at a law firm. They hate their job, so they start a club for guys to hook up with older women, essentially. And on the look at the back. It's just, yeah. It does have topless menus. I've talked about this before. I think there's only two pairs of tits in this movie. One really you see, one is just kind of briefly, but it's more sexual situations because they're throwing sex parties for younger college guys to hook up with older MILFs, essentially. So there is a little bit more sexual situations in this movie, but not that much nudity, just a lot more sexual situations. And if you're into China from WWE, there's a kinky bitch in this movie, yo. Woo, she's kinky. There's a theme with certain modern raunchy comedies, and I will consider this a raunchy comedy. Just because they don't really make it anymore. Any other time, I would not consider this a raunchy comedy but I'm going to put it on this list. Blockers. Blockers is, what is this rated? This is rated R. I don't know why. There's only one pair of tits in this movie from one of the moms. This is another representation of they don't really make these movies anymore because of the male gaze, the male perspective. So if they're gonna make these movies, they're gonna make it from the female perspective, which I'm 100% okay with. Girls are just as dirty as dudes. Like, I'm sorry, like they are. Like, these three girls just want to fuck, essentially, or they want to lose their virginity. At least two of them do. Well, all three of them kind of do, but it's very tame. Like, how this isn't PG-13? If it's R, what's it R for? Crude and sexual content, okay. Language, yes. It's more rated R for teen partying and drug use. It's not really not that. Like, I think one person smokes a joint, maybe. And it says some graphic nudity. No, that's a lie. There's no graphic nudity in this scene. There's one scene with a pair of tits, and that's, But if you're just getting into it, and this is very tame. It says R, probably mostly for language and teens partying. But as far as the raunchy comedy aspect, this should be PG-13. Because you don't see any of the main girls really do anything sexual. Really. Except for one girl. One girl actually does try to have sex, and you see a guy on top of her, but it's really nothing. Very PG. Next up, we have Bachelor Party. This is from, is it 84? Yeah, 1984 with Tom Hanks. Really good movie. This only has one pair of tits, one naked woman in it, but I think I'm going to add a plus to this because it's a bachelor party, so it's basically a hotel room filled with strippers, essentially. And, girls in lingerie, sexual innuendos, all this stuff. But as far as nudity goes, there's only one scene. This is a really fun movie. Now, this is one, if you're looking for the Blu-ray, grab it because it's going out of print. And even, I think it's up to like $40-50 now. You can get the import from UK way cheaper. I haven't figured out which one I'm getting yet. I just have the DVD, but the Blu-ray for this is going out of print really soon, and it is a Fox movie. Just putting that out there. But I would say, would I put this beginner or intermediate? I would still say beginner. It's a Tom Hanks movie. Anything with Tom Hanks is not going to be that bad. He's America's dad. He's fine. National Lampoon's Barely Legal. Now, National Lampoon has this whole run. There's more National Lampoons in this, but they did the vacation movies with Chevy Chase. But when it came to their like straight to DVD movies, this is early 2000s. This is from 2006. They had this line of like just raunchy teen comedies and stuff. This one's my favorite. It's got the kid from Brink in it. If you grew up while watching Brink, I was a fan of this kid. It's basically these high school students who kind of start a porno, like a film club. They start filming pornos, and on the tit scale, I think there's 4 naked chicks in this movie. So I would put this. I'd probably put this a little bit more intermediate. Just because high school kids start, just a situational part mostly. Amy Smart is also in this movie too. I don't think you see her naked. It's been a minute since I've seen this movie. I think this is only available on DVD. There is a Blu-ray, but there's another movie called Barely Legal, and I almost made the mistake. It's not the same movie. There's Barely Legal, and there's National Lampoon's Barely Legal. This is the better movie by far, but I would put this intermediate for sure. Private Lessons. Private Lessons, I'm going to put in the advanced category. Not because of nudity. When it comes to nudity, there's only 2 pairs of tits in this movie. That's it. But given the situational part of this movie, you cannot make this movie today at all. Basically, okay, look at the cover. It's about a kid who falls in love with his private tutor. It is. I forget I think he's in middle school. I can't remember. It's been a minute since I've seen it. This is another one that is. It came to Blu-ray, and then it had this very limited run on Blu-ray, and now it's like 500. I've seen it for $500 on eBay. Ridiculous. And they're supposed to get a reprint like this year, just a few months ago. About 2 months in June, they're supposed to have a reprint, and from the UK, but it never really got released. I don't know if it ever officially got released or anything. I think you can get it from Japan. I don't even know if you can get it in Germany on Blu-ray. I need to import this from Japan, but there is a 4K remaster that's just on Blu-ray, just not a 4K. All the DVDs are all full screen. unfortunately. But this is definitely one you can't make today, for sure. That's why I'm putting it in the advance. There's another movie I'm going to add as honorable mentions that's very similar to this. I don't own a copy yet. It's on Tubi. I've seen it a bunch of times. It's called MyTutor, which is another one very similar to this, but that one is a high school student who falls in love with his tutor. That one, there is more nudity in that one. I would how much nudity? That one's got way more nudity. I want to say it's got 5 pairs of tits in that movie on the tit scale. I would give it a 5. I think it's a 5. Way more nudity in it. But this one, just given the situation, just look at the poster. Little kid standing on a bunch of books. But yeah, this can't make this today. Tomcats. Mentioned it before. I'm not really gonna go into it. There's no nudity in this movie at all. So I will put this. I'll put this at a beginner stage. It's really not that bad. It's just I just really like the movie. Shannon Elizabeth's in this movie. But yeah, I would put Tomcats more in the beginner section of this. This next one, honestly, one of my favorites on this list. Van Wilder, and probably the only raunchy comedy on here that has a 4K. American Pie is getting a 4K in September next month, and that's why I'm waiting for my big American Pie video for that one. But this is the only other one that has a 4K. This Ryan Reynolds, Tara Reid, this movie's so good. When it comes to nudity, I think there's only 2 naked chicks in here. Really, just one. What's the other one? Taj has a moment with the girl, which is a funny moment. He's trying to hook up with his dream girl, and then he ends up using too much massage oil with the candles and basically sets the room on fire. And there's one more. I can't remember what the other one is, but this one's pretty tame. I would put this in the beginner category, and it all takes place in college. Van Wilder is, he's been a student forever. It's what he does. He's like a professional college student. And Tara Reid is a school reporter, tasked to do a story on him. So she's following him around, and he's trying to impress her. Really good. This is one of my favorite Ryan Reynolds movies. So good. There is 2 sequels. I only have one. There's Van Wilder 2, The Rise of Taj, which just follows Taj from the first movie. This does have more nudity in it. It's got, I think, 3 naked chicks in this movie. Plus, I think the main girl is more... You barely see her naked. It's more of like you see her in her underwear. It's more implied. But this one hasn't aged very well to me, personally. Like, I remember I liked it when it first came out, and I really liked the main girl in it, but she's not in it enough, and it's, I don't know, for some reason it hasn't aged that well to me. But there is a third one called Freshman Year. That one's got more nudity than both of these, and it really is a straight to DVD movie, like, for sure. Like, so is Rise of Taj, but Freshman Year is just, I don't know. I never could get into it. I never could. Coming up next, Eurotrip. I love this movie. This movie's probably got one of the best original movie songs ever with Scotty Doesn't Know. Like, you just put that on, it's instant, just feel good to me. I love Scotty Doesn't Know. But Eurotrip on the tit scale has 4 naked chicks in it. I think there's more naked dudes in it, actually. There's a scene where they go to a nude beach, and the whole joke is girls don't go there because of all the creepy dudes. So it's just a bunch of fat naked dudes running after them in this one little scene. So there's, I think, it's literally like right here. So you see more dudes naked in this than girls, but it's just this one little scene. But this movie's so fun. This group of friends they're on their way to Germany. This guy's trying to meet the love of his life that he met on the internet, who he always thought was a dude, but she's a chick. And they're kind of bouncing around Europe. They go to England, they go to France, they go to Amsterdam. They're trying to get to Germany. So just imagine all the kinky shit in between with Europeans is essentially this. It's such a good movie. Very high recommend. As far as the scale goes, I'd put this. See, this is where I get into the beginner intermediate and trying to figure that out because I don't know where I would put this. Part of me wants to say beginner, but part of me also wants to say maybe intermediate. Just because it's kind of just teens being teens. I don't know. This next one I will put in the beginner category, even though it's got 4 pairs of tits in it. The Girl Next Door. I love this movie. This movie did so much for my childhood. Was it 2004? I was in high school when this came out. So this was like basically everybody's dream. You know, the girl next door is a porn star. You know, so she's a porn star. So yeah, there's nudity in it, but it's not really that much nudity. Even the porn star scenes are like you blink and you miss them. I think the longest one is when they go to this porn convention and the main character's getting a lap dance from some girl. But really funny movie. Very high recommend for The Girl Next Door. Especially if I can't pronounce her last name. It's Alicia Cuthbert. That's how you pronounce it. This is the movie that made her a star. She's so beautiful, especially this scene when she walks to the door. I will also say this has one of my favorite like kiss scenes in a movie ever. So it's like the boy next door is basically a nerd and she's the super hot chick. He takes her to a high school party with all these jocks and they're trying to like separate them. And so the lead jock is like, flirting with the girl and his buddies are basically telling the main guy, the nerd, he's got to leave the party. And dude just grows balls all of a sudden, walks over there, pushes the jock out the way, kisses the girl in front of everybody. Camera's doing a 360. You got the most epic song playing during it. It's best first kiss scene in a movie anyway. But you're not here for that lovey-dovey stuff. You're here for the sexy, nasty shit. This has it too. Timothy Oliphant plays her porn manager. Is he a porn manager or producer? I can't remember. Somebody in the porn industry, but high recommend. Beginner or intermediate? I would say beginner. You can watch this. It's, like I said, the nudity is really not that much. It's very tame. For a Good Time, Call. Now, this movie has no nudity in it. Another one of these. Basically, every female-led version of these are not going to have nudity in it. It's just not a thing. I love this movie just because it's very independent. It's got Seth Rogen's wife in it, the brunette. It's basically about these two friends who are looking for jobs in New York City and they're struggling, so they create a 1-900 number and they're basically call girls, but not like streetwalker call girls, like literally like call girls on the phone. So she's more the manager and she's more of the main girl. So most of this movie is just dirty talk, essentially. Kevin Smith has a cameo in this movie that is so funny.
Oh yeah, back it up. Back it up. Beep, 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 beep. Loading dock, dick dock.
It is so funny. He's like a cab driver calling the chick, getting off, and it's, oh my god, it is absolutely hilarious. It's really good. I don't think enough people talk about this movie or know about this movie. It's like I said, it is very female centric, but it's girls who create a call service, so it's very sexual. I'd put that at the beginner. You can handle that. Wedding Crashers. Now, a little backstory with this Blu-ray. I just updated this like a couple months ago, and I bought the wrong edition. And this is the one you want the unrated for. I bought it for $2 at a half price books, and I just grabbed it. I saw $2 and grabbed it on Blu-ray. Not the unrated version. This is the rated R version. So all the nudity in this movie is basically edited out. And on the tit scale, I will put that as a number 5. There are 5 naked chicks. And it's all the same montage. Opening montage, they're partying, they're going to different weddings, they're getting different girls. So every girl's just laying on the bed. just with their tops off. It's really the only nude scene in it. But this is another one. Would you consider this a raunchy comedy? Debatable. That is very debatable. This is one in question. It's like some may consider it a raunchy comedy and some may not. Do I consider this a raunchy comedy? It twiddles on the line, I feel like, because it's very much just a normal comedy, but it's got a lot of raunchiness to it too. This one's hard, so I'm gonna put this in the beginner stage because this one's kind of hard. But I feel like some people will agree or disagree if this is a raunchy comedy. Speaking of another agree to disagree one, Good Luck Chuck. Now, a lot of people don't talk about this movie. This movie is very much just a romantic movie, but there's a lot of sex scenes in this movie. It's a sex montage. Like when you're banging a chick in a wheelbarrow, yeah, I'm gonna consider this a raunchy comedy. And it's got a lot of nudity in it too. Nudity level on this is like an 8. So it's pretty high up there for just a normal rom-com with 8 pairs of tits. I'm gonna put that in a sex montage. I'm gonna put that in the raunchy comedy. So basically, this dude, they call him Good Luck Chuck because he's got this thing where after you date him, you end up finding your true love. So every woman he hooks up with, the next guy they meet is the dude that they end up marrying. So he's got this reputation. So girls just want to hook up with him to meet the guys of their dreams. So he's just going with it at first until he meets Jessica Alba, who he falls in love with. And she doesn't get naked in this. She does and she doesn't. There's a scene where you see, oh, she's so sexy, where she's going to change and she takes off her top and you see her in her underwear from behind. And I think you see a little bit of side boob, but that's about it. Really charming movie. Definitely get the unrated version. I do need to upgrade this to Blu-ray. It does have a Blu-ray. So even though it has 8 on the scale, I'm going to put this in the beginner. I'm going to put it in the intermediate. Because this is a rom-com, raunchy comedy. And it kind of dabbles through half of it. So I'm going to put this at intermediate, but kind of top. Like, it's beginner, but it's intermediate. Just put the level of nudity in it in sexual situations. This next one, I'm for sure putting in the intermediate category. Doesn't have that much nudity. On the tit scale, it only has like a 1, maybe 1.5. But it's just the situational thing of it. A good old-fashioned orgy. A good old-fashioned orgy is a very tame movie. Like, I'm putting it in intermediate only because there's an orgy in the movie, but it's all for fun. I think a lot of people just see the title and they're like, what? I'm not watching that. That's so dirty and perverted, you know? It's got so many people. Jason Sudeikis, Lake Bell. I've talked about this movie before, but only one of the girls really, you see her topless for like a second. A few of the girls, okay, so I said 1.5. I'm just going to put 1 plus. Because a few of these actresses, you do see naked, but you don't see them naked. They're all implied. So their tops off, but their hands, their arms are covering everything, so you don't really see anything. And the whole orgy is just meant to be funny and silly because it's basically this group of friends. It's kind of that's what they do. They every year since high school, they throw in these massive parties, and they do it at one of the characters' dad's lake house. Well, he's selling the lake house, so they're having one last big party. And to end it all, they decide to have an orgy. Really funny, very high recommend. I'm going to put this as a very high recommend, but I'm also going to put it in intermediate, just because of the orgy situation. But speaking of orgies, I have another one that makes the advanced list. And that's just because of the situational part of it. So, How to Plan an Orgy in a Small Town is a Canadian independent film. I think that, this went to Slam Dance and a couple film festivals. This movie has no nudity in it. No tits. The only nudity in it is at the very you see butt cheeks. And some of it, like there's a scene where actually no, it's got one naked chick in it. Why'd I forget about that? One. At the very beginning, the lead girl, when she's in high school, she's going to lose her virginity to her best friend at a house party, and he gets freaked out, and she kind of gets shamed at the party, so she goes streaking down the street, essentially, and kind of like her freedom thing. And you see her naked for like a second, but when they're grown up, it's like this girl, she's got to go, her mom dies, so she's got to go back to this small little town, and she's this romance writer. She, not even a romance writer, she's like it's very sexual, like her writing, but she's a virgin. Like that's the whole twist. She's a virgin, and she doesn't want her friends to think so. So her friends kind of call her out on it, and they're trying to one up each other. And she's like, "Well, have y'all ever had an orgy?" They're like, "Yeah, we have it all the time." "All right, well then let's have an orgy." Okay. And none of these people know what they're doing, which is hilarious. The cast is really good in this. It's got the girl, I don't know her, what's her name? Probably the most famous girl in here is Catherine Isabel from Ginger Snaps, from American Mary. She's in this. She's really good in this. She's the kinkiest one. But I'm gonna put this in advance just because, I mean, at the very end they have an orgy, and there's a lot of sex, but you don't see any nudity, and all the sex is done for comedy. There's even a sex scene with a pregnant chick that is wrong and funny at the same time. But if you get a chance and you're like up there with what you're willing to do and watch, just watch. A good old fashioned, I mean, How to Plan an Orgy in a Small Town. It's really funny. Like the title makes it seem way worse than what it is, but it's really a comedy. Speaking of advanced, let's stay in the advanced. I talked about this movie before, but this is an awkward sexual adventure. In America, it's called an awkward sexual adventure. In Germany, with the Blu-ray, it's just called Sex Up Your Life. This doesn't have that much nudity. I think only 2 pair of tits, but it's got 1 bush. Yep, we're going there. You see a dude eat a girl out. So he's basically, the whole point of this cantaloupe right here is basically it follows this guy who is not very good in bed. You first see him open up. He's having sex with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's or his fiance, and she's just not into it because he's really bad in bed. So she breaks up with him, and so he seeks out like a sex worker to kind of help him get better, so he can get his girl back. And there's a scene where she's teaching him how to eat a girl out, first with the cantaloupe, and then she gets turned on and she goes, "You want to try it on the real thing?" And the way they shot this scene, he's going down on this girl. Like, you see it. Like, he can't be any closer, and she's has no underwear on. Like, just the angle of how they shot it, yeah, I truly believe he's going down on her in the movie. But it's really a funny movie. Like, there's a scene where he goes to a massage parlor for things, and just things go crazy. He dresses up like a female at one point to go for like sexual freedom and stuff. It's kind of a fun. Canadians are on a whole other level with their sex comedies, and this is another one like that. But I'm gonna put this in the advanced category for sure. It's also really hard to find. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Is this a raunchy comedy? I feel like that's questionable, but I'm putting it on this list. So on the tit scale, it's got 2. You see 2 girls naked. Probably the most iconic naked scene in all of 80s history is in this movie with Phoebe Cates. So iconic. And I'm putting this on the raunchy comedy list because probably more dudes have discovered themselves watching this movie than any other movie of the 80s. Like, it's that impactful. high school kids, sex, the good of it, the bad of it. Phoebe Cates is naked. There's another girl who's naked in it too that nobody talks about because it didn't have the impact. Jennifer Jason Leigh, a young Jennifer Jason Leigh, is also naked in this movie. Nobody cares about her because Phoebe Cates just steals the show with her one iconic scene. But I would put this in the beginner category, because it's really more of like an 80s high school movie with just 2 naked scenes in it. But just given how impactful this movie was, I'm gonna put this in a raunchy comedy category, even though it's debatable if it really is a raunchy comedy. I'll let y'all figure that out. Another iconic 80s raunchy comedy, one of the most iconic ones too, Revenge of the Nerds. Revenge of the Nerds is so good. This is definitely one of my favorites on the list. On the tit scale, it only had a 2. There's only 2 pairs of tits, but they're the bush. Another one with the bush. So it's 80s, This is like I was talking about with American Pie Beta House, where it was the nerds versus the jocks. This is the original one like that, but the nerds are the good guys and the jocks are the bad guys. Very high recommend. I would put this in... I'd probably put this in a beginner stage. It's not that bad. These kids are in college. Just nerds doing nerd shit. They like girls. They end up spying on girls and then get caught. I'm going to put this in the beginners because it's really not that bad. Not that bad. I just talked about this next one in one of my last videos, so I'm not going to go too much into detail. Sex Appeal. Sex Appeal is only a streaming movie. This is the bootleg. But I'm putting it in here because it is the most modern raunchy comedy I have, and really that's been made, because raunchy comedies don't really get made, and this has no nudity in it. There's really all the sexual situations are done in dream sequences, like really creative dream sequences, where basically when he's like fingering a girl, or when he's going down on her for the first time, or something, but there's really no like sex in this movie. And there's no nudity. Like I said, it's a female-made raunchy comedy, so you're not going to get any nudity, which is fine. I have enough to where I don't need everyone to have that personally, but it's really the actress in it, I just think is really good. That's why I really like this movie, but very tame, very beginner level, especially if you're just getting into physical media, and if you're coming from streaming. Like, this is really only available on streaming unless you get the bootleg. Sex Appeal. This next one is the last, like, all-female driven one on this. The Sweetest Thing. Part of me wants to put this in advanced, even though I'm going to put it in intermediate. Just because there's no nudity in it. This is, I think I saw this in theaters with my mom, to be honest. This is from 2002. So there's no nudity. Cameron Diaz, Christina Applegate, Selma Blair. Like, such a fun romantic comedy. But there's a lot of sex shit in this movie. Like, the reason I say it's got 0 on the tit scale and nudity scale, but I'm going to put it in intermediate, is just the situations. They're at a Chinese restaurant, and they have a whole musical number about dicks.
You're too big to fit in here. Too big to fit in here? Ow!
Too big to fit in here.
You're too big to fit in here. Too big to fit in here. Too big to fit in here.
The girls are singing about, how to tell a guy their dick is really big, essentially, in this Chinese restaurant. There's a scene where Selma Blair has to take her dry cleaning to the Asian dry cleaners just because it's got cum all over it. And Selma Blair goes down on a dude and gets her throat caught on his. He's got a piercing down there, and basically the whole apartment complex has to come like pull her off of her, and the only way to get her off is for her to gargle with his shit in her mouth. Aerosmith, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Every moment spent with you.
I cannot make this up. Like, it's really in the movie, and it's so funny. But it's just rated R or PG. This has gotta be rated R. Oh, this is unrated, so it doesn't say. So the unrated stuff is probably a little bit more perverted in their discussions of dudes and sex. This is what I'm saying. Like, girls are just as bad as guys. Then this proves it. But there's just no nudity in it, which is fine. It's also got Thomas Jane in it. Thomas Jane is the love interest. Like, and there's a scene where he goes down on her. It's a dream sequence, and he's like, I could do the kick. Can I do this every day for the rest of our lives? Like, it's very much her fantasy. It's so funny. Hardbodies. Hardbodies, I'm going to put Hardbodies 1 and Hardbodies 2 on this list because I have both of them. I mentioned them in previous videos before, but I keep Hardbodies 2 in here just because Hardbodies 2 never got a physical media release standalone. It only came in like a collection pack, but I didn't want to keep both of them, both the cases. So to save room, I just put them both in here. So this has Hardbodies 1 and 2 on DVD, and this is Hardbodies on Blu-ray. Hardbodies I'm going to put in the advanced category, mostly because this is a movie that it's kind of like an obscure 80s raunchy comedy, but not many people know about it, and it's one of these just, I feel like, forgotten gems. It does, on the tit scale, it gets a 10. There's a lot of tits in this movie. It basically, I mean, the movie literally opens up with nudity. It's got this like really cool beach montage. You know, you see all these girls on the beach with this really cool Hardbodies, the 80s song. And then the first like scene where we get introduced to our lead character, he's waking up out of bed with his girlfriend who's naked. Who's actually the girl on the cover right here. It's basically these three older dudes rent a beach house in California on like Venice Beach, and they just want to hook up with young Hardbodies essentially, but they're having trouble because they're just rich old guys, and girls are like, we're not into that. So they enlist the help of Scotty, who's this young local kid who's just really good at getting girls to help them until things get just out of control and everything. But it's a fun movie. Like, this is definitely one of my top 80s raunchy comedies on this list. Very high recommend. But I'm going to put it in the advance just because I feel like you got to know this movie to appreciate this movie. It does have a sequel, but the problem with the sequel is it should not be called Hardbodies. It does, on the tit scale, the second one gets a 4. I think there's 4 naked chicks in it. 4+, because the lead chick in it, the girl, if you've seen Austin Powers, the actress who plays a lot of vagina, it's like a younger her in this movie. She has a sex scene, but you don't really see anything. It's almost like you gotta like really pause it, and you still can barely see anything. Just side boob mostly, but it's a good movie. It just should not be called a Hardbody. It should just, and it's a lot more obscure. That one, like I said, Hardbodies 2 never got even a standalone DVD. It's on VHS, but yeah. So Hardbodies 1 and Hardbodies 2, high recommend, at least for Hardbodies 1. Ski School. Ski School is from 1991, but you would think this was from 1985. This is definitely one of my favorites, just raunchy comedies. I love anything that has to do with skiing and ski slopes, and snowboarding is like one of my favorite things in the world. So I love just movies that take place on ski resorts. When it comes to nudity, this only gets a 2 on the tit scale. But you do see more, there's like a lot of girls in bikinis in the snow. There's like implied stuff that you just don't really see. I say 2, I really just think 1.5. And it's like it's almost like blink and you miss it kind of a thing, but not really. This is very much on the tamer side. I'm gonna put this in the intermediate category. It's there's really nothing wrong with it, to be honest. It's not that bad. Would I put this in a beginner? I could. This could be a beginner 1, 2, but I'm gonna put it in like high beginner, low intermediate, like that level. I don't really know why yet, because it's not that much nudity. I just think, I don't know, that's a tough one. What do y'all think? If y'all seen this, should this be higher or lower on the thing? Because it's pretty tame. Most of it's like the ski resort. It's really not that, it doesn't have that much sexual stuff to it. Premature is a movie I've talked about on this channel before. I love this movie, and I will talk about it any chance I get. I do have the Blu-ray from Germany, which is in German. So I brought this so you could see what the movie is. This is an independent movie from South by Southwest. Literally, and it says it on here, Groundhog Day meets American Pie. Exactly what it is. Dude jerks off as soon as he comes, starts the day over again. But when it comes to nudity in the tit scale, just one. But it's a chick with 3 tits. It's there in the opening. It's like the first thing you see. Dude opens up with this dude having a dream that he's having sex with this really hot chick, but she has 3 tits, like in Total Recall. I'm gonna put this in the intermediate just because it's fun, but just given the circumstances with it, it is one of those, like, you really got to be into it. It's juvenile, which I love juvenile things. Like, I feel like if I had seen this at 13, this would be like My American Pie. Like, it's up there, and I don't feel like anybody knows about this movie. So I'm going to talk about it as much as I can. Very high recommend for Premature. You can get it streaming. You can get the DVD anywhere, and the Blu-ray is an import from Germany only. This next one is maybe should not be on this list, but I'm going to put it on this list because when you think about it, this movie's pretty raunchy. Even though it's really in the parody category of movies. Not Another Teen Movie. Now, Not Another Teen Movie has, on the tit scale, it's got a 3+. The plus is just all the other sexual, like, dialogue and stuff that's like, there's, the dirty making out scenes in this, but it's really just, it's comedy. This is pure comedy gold. But I'm putting it in the raunchy category just because, like I said, it's got more nudity in it than some of these other movies, and just the dialogue in it, like there's this scene in the movie.
Why is it every time I tell a guy they can put it wherever they want, they always stick it in my ass?
Oh, damn! That's just way too much information for me, Catherine.
Oh no, Jake. Way too much information would be telling you that after they're done, I always take a huge dump.
Shit!
On their chest.
Oh, that is whack!
That's a dirty bitch, guys. That's probably the dirtiest thing in any of these movies, dialogue-wise. And then you have, like, it's not really like a typical raunchy comedy where I feel like most raunchy comedies, the theme is trying to lose your virginity. That's a raunchy comedy, essentially. Trying to lose your virginity and all the messed up shit that happens in between. This really isn't about that. But, like I said, I'm going to put this in the intermediate, but this doesn't really qualify as a raunchy comedy. It's weird. This is a gray area movie for me, but I figured I had to bring it up on this list just because of how dirty the movie is. It really is. This next one. Now, we all know Johnny Depp got his start on Nightmare on Elm Street, and I don't think he's done another horror movie since. But right after Nightmare on Elm Street, he did Private Resort. I think this is from 1985. Such a good movie. I love this movie. This doesn't have a Blu-ray either. Well, it does. The Blu-ray comes in like a 4-pack, like a 4-summer pack, but it doesn't have like an individual Blu-ray release yet. I don't know if it ever will. TriStar is Sony, right? So they may put this out one of these days. But Johnny Depp and his friend, they work at a beach resort. On the nudity scale, it gets 3 tits. There is for sure nudity in it. It's a fun summer movie. Where would I put this? I'd probably put this intermediate. Intermediate to begin. That's what I'm saying. Beginner, intermediate for raunchy comedies is really hard. That's why I was struggling so hard with my initial idea for this video, because I feel like this could be either or. With raunchy comedies, there's either level 1 or level 2. There's really no 3 levels. It's beginner, intermediate, and then pro. And even the pro ones, basically, you're almost getting to porn at that point, or softcore porn. But so with this one, it's kind of beginner-ish, beginner intermediate-ish. It's not, like I said, three pairs of tits, but I really like this movie. I wish it had an individual one, but it doesn't. Really fun movie. Just dude at a beach resort. He's trying to get the girl, and then his friend, and all this other trouble ensues. Last but certainly not least, we got to end this with one of the most iconics of all raunchy comedies, the ones that started it all. Porky's 1, 2, and 3. Porky's is so iconic. It's the original American Pie. It's the original group of friends trying to lose their virginity thing. And the movie's set in my favorite time period. It's made in 1981, but the movie takes place in the 1950s, which to me just gives it that extra, I don't know, something different about it. And it's Kim Cattrall's one of her best roles, and this is from Sex and the City. She plays Lassie, or her nickname is Lassie in this movie. She's so good in this movie. On the nudity scale, this does get 3 tits plus a bush. You do see some bush, but it's only one scene. It's this scene right here, the most iconic scene where they're spying on the girls in the shower. You even see a big chick naked that you don't want to see naked, but it's all meant for laughter, spying on the girls in the shower. The bush part, you think you see them full frontal naked. Kim Cattrall, you don't see her topless naked at all, but you do see a very small amount when she takes her underwear off. Porky's 1, out of the 3, Porky's 1 is definitely the best by far. And then you get Porky's 2. Porky's 2 is really... So it's Porky's the next day, and it's literally the next day it follows it. And I think this came out the next year. No, every 2 years. So 81, 83, and 85. Porky's 3, Porky's Revenge, is definitely the least favorite out of them all, I think, to me personally. It definitely goes in order 1, 2, and 3. But Porky's on the nudity scale gets 3 tits and a bush. It's so funny saying that out loud. Porky's 2 doesn't have that much nudity. I think Porky's 2 only has 1. Only 1. And it's so in the first movie, they go to a prostitute to try to prank Pee-wee. Pee-wee's kind of one of the lead characters, and he's kind of the butt of all the jokes. They go and prank him in the first one to this prostitute. Well, the second one, they pull the same prank, but they go to this graveyard, and it's so funny. And the prostitute gets really turned on by graveyards, and she gets naked at the graveyard, and that's the only scene. The third movie has the most nudity in it. That one's got, on the nudity scale, it's got 3 tits. Plus, I think there's a little bit more with, like, just girls in underwear are implied. But third one's definitely got the most nudity in it. But it's probably the least good out of all these. Now, 2 and 3 came to Blu-ray from Kino. And this is Fox. So these are all Fox. So there is rumors that Porky's one is supposed to come to 4K from Arrow. Like, it's been announced. They have it on bluray.com, and I think Arrow has announced it, like, unofficially. But I don't know if that was before the Fox merger, and I don't know if anything's happened to it, because Crybaby was the same thing. When Kino did announce Crybaby, it took them like 3 years, I think, to release it. Same with Desperado. When they initially announced Desperado, it was like 2 or 3 years before it officially got announced, which it got announced this year, and it comes out, I think, next month. But Porky's got announced, and we still haven't got it yet. So I'm really hoping it's still coming, and we get Porky's. And Arrow's supposed to do it, so it'll look really good. But this is probably one of my... when it comes to, like, raunchy comedies, ranking them, American Pie is definitely top for me. Porky's is second. I love Porky's. This is such a good raunchy comedy, such a good series, especially 1 and 2. Very high recommend. I'm gonna put this in the advanced. Like, I feel like to appreciate Porky, if you appreciate raunchy comedies, Porky's is what you want. That's why I'm putting in the advanced, because I'm like, that's the golden star if you can appreciate Porky's. Yeah, and definitely get all 3 for sure. Definitely get all 3. That was a lot. This is probably the longest video I'll ever make, because like I said, this one was really hard for me to figure out how to make it, and I just said, screw it, I'm just gonna put them all in there in one video. There's definitely some I left out that y'all can leave in the comments below, and let's talk about it. Screwballs is one I left out because I don't own Screwballs. And Screwballs has 2. Screwballs 1 and Screwballs 2 Loose Screws. Both of those are out of print. I think the Screwballs Blu-ray is like $200 right now. It's really hard to find. And even the DVD is like $40-50 some places. Screwballs 2 Loose Screws, it's kind of hard to find because you gotta... It sometimes only goes by Loose Screws. Screwballs is kind of wants to be Porky's, but it's not as good as Porky's. You can watch Screwballs on Amazon Prime, but to me, it's not as good. It's not near as good. There's another one, an honorable mention, because I don't own the Blu-ray yet, and I want to grab it. It's Private School with another Phoebe Cates movie. That I really like that movie. I just don't own it on physical for some reason. I've been waiting for the price to go down because it's been at like $20, and it's one of those things where I just never like really needed it. But Private School is another really good one that I recommend. And then one I've never seen. Out of all of these, I've never seen this movie. That I want to see that. But again, the Blu-ray is really hard to find. Even the DVD sometimes is hard to find. But I'm really looking for the Blu-ray. But I haven't seen it. I've seen trailers for it. I've seen clips. The one chance I had to watch it was like a really low resolution on streaming, and I just couldn't get into it because just the picture quality was like really crappy. But those are some honorable mentions. And I know there's way more I'm missing. And some that I took off this list just because I didn't know if they would be considered raunchy comedies or not. Like, I was really gonna put Stripes on this list with Bill Murray, but decided at the last minute maybe that's not really a raunchy comedy. Maybe it's just like I would put that more in the militaries. I don't know. That's another hard one. I don't consider that a raunchy comedy, but I almost did. Like, what do you consider a raunchy comedy? Do some of these fall into that category? Do some of these not fall in that category? I had a tough time with some of these. Some of these I was like, they're on that border. Like Weird Science. Weird Science is on. Actually, Weird Science is not a raunchy comedy. Weird Science is not. Weird Science is an 80 high school movie with. The only sexy thing about that movie is Lisa, but that movie is not about kids just trying to have sex. Yeah, they're just trying to get girlfriends, essentially. So I wouldn't consider Weird Science a raunchy comedy. So So yeah, these are basically my whole raunchy comedy collection. Let me know if you found this like ranking system helpful. You know, I tried to be helpful with it because, like I said, the original intent for this is to be a guide to raunchy comedies, and I didn't know how to do that, so I just was gonna put everything in here. And I did the tit scale because I thought it would be fun and cheeky and probably misogynistic. It's, you know, I don't really care. It's when you're talking about these movies, look behind me. I mean, come on. It's what these movies are. But if you found this helpful, like, let me know. Again, this is my favorite genre in movies, or one of my top favorites in movies. I can talk raunchy comedies all day long, and there's still, like, I'm still discovering new raunchy comedies, especially the 80s. The 80s was like a threshold for raunchy comedies, and then we had a very small peak toward the late 90s, early 2000s, where we got a little bit more, and then they disappeared again. And I don't know if we'll ever really get them back again. I hope we do, but given the society we live in, I think we'll get them, but we'll just get a certain perspective that won't be from the male audience. It'll be for the female audience, and there won't be nudity. And I'm saying that based off facts with some of these, with Blockers. I think that's from 2016. No nudity, no real sex stuff in it. Sex Appeal, no nudity, some sex stuff, but mostly just comedy stuff. And then even from 2002, The Sweetest Thing, female, no nudity, but really, that one's like really sexual, like innuendos and stuff. But I feel like it's a genre that's being lost. And in today's generation, you almost have to grow up with these movies to appreciate them. Because now it's just like, oh, that's inappropriate. Oh, that's juvenile. Oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not okay. Which is kind of the appeal to me of raunchy comedies, and why I love them so much, because it's a lost genre from a time not so long ago that I'm still in love with. But what do you guys think? Do you like any of these movies? Did you find anything that you're really interested in? Let me know in the comments below, and let's talk about it, because I fucking love this genre.